Right, this is live. All right, so you have to do something. You have to execute a command in order to the undo to start kicking off. An example, I'm going to move, you don't have to do this, but if I move these, this tree, you know, the undo button now has in his drop-down list the last command, and the action, the history start getting visible in this drop-down list. So you can undo all the way back to the very first command during the day. And this is all stored in memory, temporary memory. When the file is closed, then all that temporary memory is released. And when you open the next session, then all that information that used to be cached is all gone. So it only lasts while the session is active or is or it hasn't been used, or when it hasn't been closed. All right, these are the zoom commands. And then I am in a 3D view. The way I got here is via the 3D house in the upper left side. And I just also want to show you the navigation wheel. It's the first command in the upper right side of this menu, this guy here. This is the navigation wheel. And it's a collection of 8 different commands. To be honest, this is not my favorite user interface in Revit because it sticks to the tooltip, to the cursor. And but it has commands that you may want to know. Again, these are all just controlling the camera location. The one that's easier to understand is pan. You press pan, and pan, what it does, it just displaces the line between the camera and the target in a plane. That's all it's doing. So it's not. Then the other one, the one that you should note too, is the zoom. If you press zoom and then you just move in and out, Revit is going to zoom using the cursor as the center of the space. So then zoom uses the cursor as the center of the world. Another one is orbit. And if you keep press orbit, orbit places a pivot point in the center, geometrical center. I don't know why it's not doing it right now, to be honest. I'm just supposed to click the left click and should do it. Let's see if I exit this. And then the rewind, what's in the opposite side of that, this is a temporary undo on changes in the viewpoint. So notice that this is also using cache memory in order to zoom in all the changes of the camera, but it is not nested in the undo button. So if you ever want to like undo a change of camera, you have to use the navigation wheel and use the rewind. So I'm going to go all the way to the very first view, and that's where it's stored. Open the view in 3D called, yeah, let's do the building courtyard. This is a 3D camera. It has a perspective view. You can see the perspective points. And if you open again the navigation wheel, you're going to find a command called walk. And this is exactly what it does. A walk, it's controlling a walkthrough through the building using a 3D camera. Walk is very, very subtle. So in order to learn it, you have to do micro movements of the mouse, because otherwise, instead of walking, you start running. So when I press walk, notice that right at the bottom of the view, there is this dot with a circle, a light blue circle. So think of that point as a joystick, right? So you have a joystick pointing perpendicular from the view, and then you have to do this micro movements to the front in order to start walking towards the view or towards the left. And it's a way to reposition the observer location. And I'm just making movements in the mouse that are really little subtle. Now, if you do this and you get lost, it's totally normal. And remember, you cannot undo changes in the view, but you can rewind them. You can always rewind and go back to the first shortcut display. Again, navigation wheel, walk, that's your joystick. And do small movements right outside of the blue circle to start navigating yourself. When you're doing this type of walkthroughs, Revit goes through the walls into the building, and then you can start to like doing micro adjustments for any type of 3D that you may want to do. I got lost again here, so I'm going to rewind. But as you use the tool, it's going to get a little bit more easier on you. It's not going to be that big of a shot. I'm going to try to go through this stairway. And I'm inside the building. And the other command that I like, which is this one called look. This is the equivalent of fixing your location in space, but grabbing the camera by your hands and just looking around. So click look, grab the camera, and then you just like looking around. The observer remain fixed. The target point of the camera is the one that is moving or orbiting around your location. Revit doesn't have gravity in space. There are other programs that use gravity to ground a person to the ground, but not Revit. And what you can do here, there's the last command that I want to show is called up and down. And this is the equivalent of having a crane pull you up from your location. So you are maintaining your XY location, but all you're changing is the Z elevation of your eye. So if you click it, you're going to see this vertical slider, and you can do also a micro movement upwards, and it's going to shift your location in the Z elevation. And then you can manage yourself inside the space by using a combination of all of this command. So here I'm using look, and I use the up down. Then I could walk forward, getting inside of the building. Again, look around. Look around. My honest opinion is that it's not the most intuitive way of navigate yourself inside. So I wish this was a little better. But using these 8 commands, you can technically just create any type of view inside the project or position yourself in any spot in the building. And all of them work inside of you. This is spanning, orbiting, zooming, look, up, down, walk, and rewind. All right, does that make sense? I'm going to let you play with this for maybe a minute, and then get used to these commands, because this is how you navigate yourself inside a 3D view. I'm going to open another view.
Hey, Cesar?
Yes.
Could you share, I don't know if I might have missed this, but could you share how to change the view to be a perspective projection?
Yes. This is, these 3D views can be axonometric or perspective. These were already in the project that were created for us. But when you create a 3D view, and I'm going to switch to the 3D view, the default one, the 3D view in brackets. One of the properties of the view of any 3D view, if you scroll down, is the projection mode. And you have 2 choices here, orthographic or perspective. And so right now, this is axonometric, orthographic axonometric. If I change this to perspective, also take a look what happens with the cube box. This is now a perspective view, and it has perspective points. And this is the manual way of setting up those perspective to change this to perspective. You can see that the perspective point in the horizon. But by default, when you create a new 3D view, the 3D view camera is by default set up to be perspective. Let's create a new camera view. And this is super simple. It's better to create cameras from the floor plan because you have greater control over the eye level and the target point. To create a new 3D view, go to the View tab, and then go to the to the presentation panel, and you're going to see a drop-down menu called 3D View, and choose Camera. And you create a camera by defining the observer's point and the target point. So I'm going to create one that is in front of the entry doors. This is This is my location, and this is the target. The target is the doors, but if I just click the destination there, the perspective is not going to have a depth. And that's why I need to extend it a little far beyond, because the second point of this camera is how deep you can see in the camera. So second point, and then Revit automatically creates a new 3D view in perspective mode. By default, it's named 3D view 1. And it goes and is displayed in white. But you can use the graphic display options, the second button from the controls, to change it to shaded. And this could be your base point view in perspective. And if you want to adjust it, just use one of the 8 commands in the navigation wheel, like looking around, zooming in and out, or use the walk through tool to like reposition yourself inside the space. And once you have the perfect frame, just exit the navigation mode. To do that, you just click that little X that is next to the menu, and that closes the view. So camera views come in perspective mode, but then even within perspective into camera views, you can always change it using the projection mode. And this is going to look ugly when I change a perspective to, you see, it ruined the camera for me. So I'm going to undo that. All right. Hope that answered the question.
How do you get the shade, Cesar?
It's the second button from the lower menu. It's called the visual styles.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then you have wireframe mode, hidden line, no colors, shaded. Consistent color, it's just apply the same tone of the color to the faces of the object. Like there's light and orientation doesn't have an impact in the color. Whether if you use shaded, then you have a assume light source that it's in the 30 degrees north and 30 degrees on the azimuth. And this generic light create shaders on the different faces, whereas consistent color doesn't take into consideration orientations and shadows. And then the last one, realistic. If you have a slow machine, don't do it.
Yeah, I did that. It crashed.
Realistic will start applying textures to your view. And it's like a generic render. It was heavily improved in the past couple of versions of Revit. It is not too bad on my machine because I have a very good one, but it does consume a lot of RAM. So in particular, if you're using parallels, this might not look perfect. So stay away from it for now, and let's work just with shaded and hidden line. Okay, any question? Navigation bar is what I was missing, showing you guys. Okay, I'm going to go back to the 3D view in brackets. I also want to show you a couple of things. Remember, I explained to you guys on being trapped in sketch mode. And that's a condition that happens when you edit a system family. A system family is a family that only lives inside a project. You cannot save it as an external file. System families require you to define the boundary of an assemble before it's created. Example is the floors, the roofs, the walls, the top of surface. And so if you ask how the hell I got into sketch mode, I didn't do anything. Well, this is what happened. Sometimes we inadvertently double click a system family. And when you double click a roof, a floor, a top of surface, then it activates sketch mode. So I'm going to do it on purpose in this 3D view. I'm going to double click the roof. You know, I think I disabled it on my workstation. Let's see a floor. I'm going to double click this floor. It's already disabled on, oh, here it is. When I double click a floor, and you see this purple lines, and then you see this contextual tab with this green ribbon color background, and you have to click either the green checkbox or the red X in order to get out of that. Otherwise, all the user interface, it's grayed out, and you don't know how to, you wouldn't know how to leave here unless you go to the modify contextual tab and hit the X. This is going to leave you behind. And that happens quite easily. I mean, you double click something like this street. I just double click it and I'm in a sketch mode. And exit. That behavior, it's an out-of-the-box behavior. But it can be annoying sometimes, in particular for a beginner, because it quite often happens. You double click unintentionally on something and it does something else. We're going to disable that behavior. And the other one is when you double click a family. Like if I double click this tree, ooh, what's happening? Now I have this tree displayed as a preview view. And what's happening when you double click a component family, a family that you bring from outside into Revit, then it opens the family editor. And the only way you know you are in a family editor is because in the property window, you have the word family. So these are the behaviors of the double click on elements. And as we develop exercise, can be distracting. So I'm going to disable that using the options. So if you open the family, just close it, close that window. If you open the floor, remember exit using the red X in the user interface. And to disable the double click behaviors, just go to the File tab, and in the drop-down menu, hit the Options button. And in the user interface, there's a section called Double Click Options right here. And hit Customize. And so this is what happens when you double click on certain elements. If you double click on a loadable family, it will open that family and load it. And for now, I'm going to disable it. When you double click on a system family that uses sketch mode, it edits that element. So I'm going to also disable it. Do nothing. And then the other are like what happens when you double click a view inside a sheet, activate the view. That's a good one to have. outside the view, deactivate the view, unassemble groups and stairs. We're not gonna do that very often. So I'm just gonna disable the behavior for the very first two and then hit OK. Hit OK, etc. All right, so did you get that? You want me to repeat it? All good?
All good.
All right. The other thing I needed to show you is this. When you open a file in Revit, I have this file open here that's called Mila Hiat Start. And then every time you hit the save command, Revit save a backup, which is a copy of the previous file in case you want to retrieve it. And it does it 3 times. 01 was the very first. I hit the command save at 526. Then I hit it again at 527. And then I hit it again at 527. So every time you save, Revit create up to 3 backups. And then after it hit the 3rd time, it started replacing the first one with a new one with a consecutive prefix. So 01, it's replaced by 04. Then you have, when I save the 5th version is going to replace 02. When I save the 6th time, then it's going to replace 03. And then it goes in this cycle of keeping just 3 incremental backups. A lot of companies don't like that, and they have established an internal script that cleans your user interface with these temporary files backups. I'm not going to show you how to do that because I don't even know myself, but it's something you do with the Windows settings, that you disable the file ability to save incremental files. So you can delete this and nothing happens. These are just incremental backups, but in case you wonder why are there, that's why. And then the other option I wanted to show you, it's under the file locations. These are the full location of your templates. Notice that in Revit 2023, out of the box, these are the Revit provided templates. But in your company, if you have standards and you have a template that it's living in a centralized location in your server, then you can add the path using this plus sign and navigate and search for the your template location. And so you can navigate to your server and locate your own templates. This is going to give you a head start on your end. The other one is this one here. This is a very important path. The full path for user files. And we're going to talk more about work sharing in a future class, but this is the path where your temporary files reside. So when you open a file and this file is work share, your local file is going to be saved in this path. I think out of the box is documents in your user profile, but some companies like to standardize this path so that IT always know where to look for in case Revit crash or in case you want to retrieve some temporary file for troubleshooting. Then the location, the default path of user file is often customized. And you can assign it to a dedicated folder. And then the other one under file location is this button called Places. And this is the location of the local library. If you're missing this path, it's okay. You can always use the cloud-based library. In the last class, I also I gave you a link to where you can download these libraries out of the box. So let me know if you're missing this, but the path, it's a long path and it's a little odd because it goes to C program data. Program data is a hidden folder. You have to unhide it via Windows settings, Autodesk, Revit, libraries, English Imperial. This is the out-of-the-box library. And it's important because in the next exercises, we're going to be loading content. And this content, some of it, it's in the Imperial library. I want to make absolutely sure that you have this working correct.
How did you get there, Cesar? I turned around and I missed it.
Yeah, go to the File tab and open the Options button.
Yeah, I got there, but which?
And then go to the File location.
Got it.
And under Places, this is the location of the libraries.
Places. Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah.
All right. That is what I was missing from last class. Any question here? We're going to swap files and oh, you know what? Let's talk about levels in this file and then we'll do a swap. All right, so I am in a 3D view. Open the 3D view in brackets view in the project browser or just hit the little house in the upper left side. One of my favorite buttons in Revit are these two here. What the first button is, it has like this shade and another is a light bulb. The light bulb, it's a way to display the categories that are hidden in the 3D view. And if you recall in the last class, visibility graphics provide me a tabular display where I can select the category and switch them off as needed. So if you hit the reveal hidden elements, it's going to display in red the categories and subcategories in the project that are currently frozen. So this is a very quick way to find stuff that is not visible. For example, I think the levels are hidden. And if I wanted to display them, just select it and hit on hide category. And that's all you need to do. Select any red element you want to display and hit on hide category in the contextual tab and disable the light bulb. And now the levels are visible. You can see the levels drawn in the background. The other one, and I think I think I showed it last time, maybe not. No, I did not show it. Is the temporary hide, another of my favorite commands. It's this little icon that display shades. And what it does is that it will isolate in the view all the elements that belong to a selected category. For example, I'm going to click on the wall, any wall. Make sure it's a wall, and they have category wall here. And when you hit the temporary hide isolate, you can isolate an object, isolate a category, or hide a category, or hide an element. So I'm going to isolate category. And notice the blue frame around the view. And all the objects that belong to the category of wall are now visible in this 3D view. This is particularly useful if you're trying to check integrity, connections, heights, build wall types. And it's temporary. It means that it does not impact the graphic display of the view. When you're done with this, go back to the icon and reset it. And that takes you back to the previous view.
So, I've got a question. I hit those glasses, that icon, and when I hit isolate category, that whole menu in that window grayed out, and now I can't click on anything within it, including reset. Does that sound like something that's familiar to you?
You hit the curtain walls, or what did you hit?
No, I'm in 3D view. I just hit isolate category. And when I hit it, nothing changed in my 3D view window. But yeah, that when you go to the glasses there, that whole window there with all of the different options, they grayed out. So I can't click on any of them.
Oh,
I have the same thing.
okay. Check the following. Make sure that there is no template. So where it says view template, make sure it says none. So in the
Okay.
3D view, make
Yeah.
sure it's none. And now try it again.
Okay.
Oh, I know what it's saying. So when you click it, everything is grayed out. You have to
Exactly.
select something first.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So select the roof, for example,
Mhm, mhm.
and then hit the temporary hide isolate, and it will be highlighted for you.
Got it. Thank you.
So now I only have the roof isolated. These are all the roof in the project. If you're working on modeling or sloping the roof, you can do it in this temporary mode. Do your work and then disable it, reset. But yeah, you have to select something first.
Got it. That did the trick. Thank you.
Let's try a few more things. I'm going to select the trees, for example, and you can select elements of multiple categories. For example, I'm going to select a wall and a roof. So select the roof, select the wall. You can use the control key to add to the selection. And then I have two elements from two categories. Isolate the category. And I have both walls and roofs visible in the temporary display. To disable it, reset temporary hide isolate. For quality control, this is very useful. Reveal hidden elements, I talk about it. Temporary hide. You can also just hide elements at a time. For example, if you just want to hide one element, select it, go to the isolate element and say hide element, And instead of hiding all the elements of the three categories, you just hide one element. But that doesn't mean it's gone. It's still there. And if you want to permanently hide that element, hit applied, hide, isolated to the view. And what that means is just maintain the visibility settings of the temporary hide, isolate, and make it permanent in the view. When I do this now, that tree, it's hidden. And if I need it back, what should I do? Very quickly. To bring the visibility of that tree.
Reset, temporary hide, isolate.
Yeah, you just go to the little bulb that says reveal hidden elements. The tree is red because it's been hidden. And hit on hide element. And then switch it back. So these two things work in side by side. You can isolate objects, freeze objects, reveal them, make them visible again. But in the process of modeling, using these two, it's a big time saving.
Caesar, I have a question. I forgot, how did you add, when you want to isolate two elements, how did you add one to the next one?
Use the control key. And you're going to see when you hit control, the cursor had this plus sign. That's a visual cue that it's waiting for the next element. In my case here, I selected 4 elements, including some columns. Or no, the generic models up from outside. And then isolate category. I have 4 categories visible in my view here.
I'm trying to do that, but it doesn't really work. I select the wall, for example.
Hit the control key and keep it pressed.
Through the whole way. Or first select, then.
First select, then hit control key, keep the control key pressed, and click another object. This is going to add something else to the selection.
Okay, see what you're saying. Okay, now it worked. Okay.
This is the slab, the floors and the roofs.
Yeah. Yeah, got it.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go to the floor plan entry level. And one last more thing. The actions that you execute using the view controls are recorded in the 3D properties of the view, and there's a correlation between them. I'm going to move the project browser to right here. So the scale, it's 1 to 100 here. And you can change the scale right now because we converted to metric. From metric to feet and inches, I have all the feet and inches scales available here. Let's make it 1/8 of an inch, equal 1, which is a typical scale for overall views. But my point here is that like the view scale is the property. You can set it up in the property window, or you can set it up in the view control. The next one is the display model. So the display model is the detail level. The detail level goes to here. So you can set it up in these 2 places at the same time. Then like the crop, this is display or disable the view of the crop region and the crop visible. So these are two checkboxes, and those are controlled from here. This is here as well. And the changes you do in the view control changes the property window, and vice versa. If you change it manually in the property window, then it's changing the effects of the view controls. All right, that's FYI.
Cesar,
Yes.
I'm trying to locate the architectural scale, and I don't seem to have that set up. Is that something that, like, is there units that I could change it to?
Yeah, and I think the second day we changed the units. So under the Manage tab, you're gonna see icon that has like a little calculator with 2 zeros. And make sure you change the area to report square feet, distances to feet, and length, feet and inches. So when you change these 3 ones, then it's going to display scales in feet and inches.
Okay, thank you.
Can you go back one step so I can see where you
You go to the Manage
manage?
tab, and then find the project units icon. It's a big icon that has
I got it.
zeros, and change area, distance, and length at the minimum. Area is square feet, distances are feet, and length are feet and fractional inches. Make sure you use, this is a global rounding for distances. All right, and the last couple of things. Measure. We're architects, we want to measure everything digital. You can use the measure tool. The measure tool is right here in the upper right corner. Measure the distance between 2 parallel objects. So want to find what something measures, just hit the measure, hit first click on something, the second click on something else, and there it goes. That's your measurement. Want to know what's the size of this column? Measure. And Revit will assign a temporary dimension. This temporary dimension in blue is not permanent, it's not going to be printed, but it's a visual reference of what you just measured. I want to measure what's the size of this mullion. It's 5/29 seconds. The objects have to be parallel, like, no, that's not true. That's for dimension. When you place dimension, the dimension needs to be parallel. But when distances, I can find the distance between 2 spots and they could be in a diagonal. They don't have to be parallel. All right, and the last thing before we move, the project browser has these, every view has a little square right next to it. Notice that some of them are blue and some of them are white. When a view has a blue check mark, this is a visual way to tell you that belongs to a sheet. And what that means is that the rest of the views have not been placed in sheets. And so notice the sections are part of a view. There's some details that are not. And there is very quickly you can tell what is part of the documentation and what is not the part of the documentation. And you can delete the views that maybe just taking space. Revit files can grow fast very quickly. All right. So, any question before we move to the next topic? All right. So let's close this file. File close. Or hit Control W. Yes, I'm going to save it. And we're going to start developing I'm looking at it in the internet. Yeah. This is the Mila Hite house. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mork Ulnes Architects. I think they're a local boutique firm in San Francisco. They do a high-end residential, and they have an office in Finland, I believe. And this house, I think, has appeared in a lot of publications and has won some awards. It's very small, built in 2017. It's geometrically very simple. And I like it because it's like a good size project or a small size project that allows us to explore a lot of different concepts in Revit, like how you build exterior walls, how you apply custom textures, how you derive walls from solids, how you build simple doors and windows. And we're going to build it from scratch. And it has this kind of like Nordic, fresh, young IKEA look.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to build. So I know some of you don't do residential, but let's start with this project just so that we learn everything about the modeling tools, including some site tools, modeling walls, levels, grids. And this is the type of output that you can get out of this small little building. All right, so in Google Drive, under the fall 2023, there is a folder called Mila, M-Y-L-L-A. And there's a file called Mila_heat start. I'm going to share a link with you guys and put it on the chat panel. Mila house. There you go. Download it in a place you can retrieve or a dedicated folder. And open it. I have that file already downloaded on my end. And I downloaded some of the images from Art Daily. I load them and scale them. Here are some of the exterior elevations from a JPEG. So basically, I use it to extract dimensions. And the house is very simple. It has two levels, a level that is level 1 that is 0, a level 2 that is 9'4" above the level. The total height is 16 feet in height. And over in level 1, I created this working planes so that we can all replicate the same modeling steps. I added this raster image in the background. You can load images, sketches, a picture, and then place it in the background of a view. You can pin it so nobody change it, and that's what we're going to do first. The raster image on level 1, we're going to pin it because I don't want you guys move it by mistake, and it's very easy. You just drag it, and that's how it's moved. So select the image and pin it in the floor plan. And we're going to build this initially as a conceptual mass. And then we're going to use the faces of that mass to derive the walls, the roof, the floors, and the ceilings. Okay. So let's get started with conceptual mass. And what we're going to end up doing is based on the images that we have here, you're going to create two solids. And then we're going to displace the edges of these two solids, and we're going to raise them up by 4 feet. And then we're going to do the same in the opposite end. And we're going to create a very, very simple conceptual form geometry. And then we're going to use face-based objects to create the walls. All right, you guys with me? All right, let's create the first solid. And to do that, we're going to go to the architectural tab, create a model in place. Model in place is a way to create conceptual masses, create masses that can be used to evaluate design options. When you create a conceptual mass, it's going to ask you what is the category, and just select mass. Then it's going to tell you that it has created, it needs to enable the show mass mode, and that's okay. Just hit close. I'm going to call this solid 1 for the first half of the class, the first half of the house. And then notice that now I'm in a different user interface. This is the mass creation tool. In order to create masses, you have to first create a boundary, extrude the boundary, and then edit the edit points, edit edges, or edit faces. This is pretty much like SketchUp, or sort of a SketchUp. All right, and let me know if you want me to stop and repeat, please, because I don't want you guys to fall behind.
A question, Cesar, I got there, but how do I make the architectural plan bigger?
Architectural plan bigger.
I have all the images tiny, but how do I make it like so it occupies the space?
You zoom in. I'm using the mouse wheel. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, but how do I drag? Oh, I see. Okay.
Press the mouse wheel to pan.
I see what you're saying. Okay, got it. Okay, perfect. Done. Yeah.
All right. So
It was, sorry, it's Isabella. My neighbor stopped by when you were showing the beginning. And I
Oh,
missed the very, very beginning. So I actually started my own project, but it looks like you have an existing that you opened.
do you see the link of the house in the chat panel? I placed
Awesome.
the Miller house.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
And I don't want to be pain in the ass, but I did miss the massing. Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna cancel it. I'm gonna do it again. So, okay, let's watch it first, and then we'll do it together. I want to do the sequence, complete sequence, and understand and explain why, and then we'll do it together. So on the architectural tab, we create a model in place mass object. So don't worry about keeping up with me because I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to call this solid 1. Using a sketch tool in the draw panel of the family creation, I use a chain of lines and use intersections to snap to the intersection of this reference plane. And then I create a solid form. Again, don't worry, I'm just explaining very quickly. Oh, that's not what I wanted. This created a surface, not a. Let me go back here. A line, not in 3D. Okay, when I do this, then in 3D, I get this boundary. You select all the lines and create a solid form. And then if, I need to pull the longest form up. I select this, I hit tab to select this height of the edge and change it to 16. Then I select this point and move this to 16. And this is the boundary of half of the house. All right. I'm going to cancel this and we're going to do it together. I'll go back to the floor plan. Level 1 and go to the architectural tab, component, model in place. In the family and category dialog box, select masses as a category. Then hit OK. The name is solid 1. And now I'm presented with the mass tools. These are ways of creating masses. In the draw tools, pick the line tool. And we're going to trace over half of the house. Notice that Revit is going to snap to the intersection. You see that X? That is a visual cue that you are snapping at the intersection of two reference planes. And just trace it over. Snap to the intersection. Snap to the intersection. To move yourself in the view, you can zoom in and out. These are transparent commands. And the other thing to check is that this is enabled. This option is called chain. What that means is that Revit is creating a chain of lines. It should be by default, but just in case, if you don't have that enabled, that should be chain. All right, so we created 6 lines. We have a loop of interconnected lines. And then let's switch to the 3D view, the little house in the upper left side. You should have something like this in 3D.
Mhm.
All right. Escape, because I'm no longer placing lines. Escape, cancel, placing line. And now I'm going to select the chain of walls, the chain of lines.
Select the chain of line. What is this?
If you have this in 3D, just click on one of the lines. It should select all of them. And then there's a menu called Create Form. This is a way to create solids. And in Revit, you can create extrusions, which is a profile extruded perpendicular to a direction, perpendicular to the face. You can create we're going to talk more about solids in the family creation. So hit solid and you should get something like this, 10 foot above the floor.
How do you stop the lines again?
Escape key.
Escape. Okay, got it. Okay, perfect.
Select the profile, which is all the lines, and then hit create form. It will go 10 foot above. Now, if I look at the elevation, the top of the volume is 9'4" and then 6'8". Let's keep those in mind, 9'4" and 6'8". So I have the right solid, but it doesn't have the right height. So when you hover over a model, a mass model, Revit likes to select the faces. Like it gives you a preview of the face. But you can also select edges. Like I'm selecting an edge here. When you select an edge, you see this gizmo, directional gizmo with arrows that I can use to pull the vertice in orthogonal direction. Or you can select an entire face. Like I want to select the entire top face of this model. Make sure everything is highlighted in blue. And I'm going to change this temporary dimension that's showing as 10. I'm going to change it to 9'4". Now, when you type in Revit, you don't have to type the feet character or the inch character as long as you have a certain order. Like this is 9'4", and Revit understand is 9'4". If
Hey,
you
Seth,
want to,
quick question, sorry to interrupt. How did you select the entire face of the roof? Keep trying to just click the face and it's not selecting it.
so you see, if I hover over, it will select it. But if you want, like, to make it easier on you, there is this selection control that we looked at last time, which is select by face. Enable that, it's going to be easier on you.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, select the face and change its height to 9'4". No need to type the character inch and hit enter. And then the face is 9'4" above floor. Everybody with me here?
No, mine became 94.
Undo.
Undo. Okay.
Control Z or hit the.
Yeah. Okay. I put 94, but I don't know what happened.
It's 9'4".
Okay.
The space is understood as the fit character.
Okay, got it.
All right, now that we are here, you can also pick edges or vertices. You see, this is selecting a vertice, and this is selecting an edge. And if I look at the sketch in my elevation, the top of the house is 16 foot above floor. So what I'm going to do here is select the longest edges in the northeast side. Edges, not face. Select the edge and change the temporary dimension to 16 feet. Enter. And I'm like, this is like a SketchUp. You're just like pushing and pulling edges and faces and vertices. And now I need to raise these vertices right here. So hover over, you're going to see like a big dot popping up. When that dot pop up, click to select. And I'm going to modify the Z value of the temporary dimension to 16 feet. Hit enter. And this is the mass. This is half of the house done. Easy, simple. If the mass looks correct, just click the green checkbox that says Finish Mass. And now the mass is part of the project. You guys got it?
I got to the mass, to the first phase, but I can't. Which side did you make 16 again?
You picked the edge and the vertical dimension Z, change it to 16.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, yeah, got it. Okay.
And then to raise the opposite side, don't
16,
pick the vertice, and
Yeah,
the
got it.
vertical dimension, make it 16.
Perfect. Okay.
So let's finish the mass. And this is the first half of the house completed. You should see in the floor plan the mass and the left side. And you see those handles. Those are ways to push and pull the face. Like you can push this, but that's not what I want. So, but that's how conceptual mass work. This is a very fluid object. You can select and push and pull elements as needed to explore conceptual design.
How do you pull again? Sorry.
Just click on the
Oh,
mass.
yeah, okay, got it.
You see these faces, but
Yeah.
don't do it. I'm just showing you that you could do it, but don't do it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, can you guys do on your own the second half? It's exactly the same command as this. See if it's stuck in your head. Then architecture, component, model in place. Pick the mass category and name it solid 2.
Caesar, I'm sorry, I can't get back to my floor plan.
Project browser, level 1.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you.
And again, go to the architecture tab, component, model in place. Select the mass category.
I do have a question. How do you save the changes? When I click the X to go to the architecture mode, I have a window that say that I'm going to just discard the changes that I did.
Do you see this finish mass?
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Got
finish.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this is masses are system families. They only live inside the project. They use sketches. You see where I'm sketching the boundaries. And we always finish with the green checkbox. All right, let's do the second half. Architecture, component, model in place, mass category. We're gonna call this solid 2. And again, we're gonna trace the house using segments of line. This is a chain of lines. Make sure the chain checkbox is enabled. And we're gonna trace using the intersection of the reference plane. Once the loop is closed, escape keyboard, escape key to finish placing line. But that doesn't mean the mass is finished. And then I'm going to switch to a 3D view. Here is the profile of the second half. Select the profile and create a form, a solid form. And we're going to do the same changes we did on the first half. Select the top face, and in the temporary dimension, change it to 9.4, space 4. 9 space 4. Then select the edge that's adjacent to the other solid and change its height to 16. And then select the vertice and change its height to 16. Always enter after the to execute the change. And this looks correct. To finish the math, the green checkbox in the upper right side. And that was it. This is the conceptual mass of this house.
Hey, Cesar.
Yeah.
Just a question. So alternatively, could we have used the mirror tool and copied it?
Yes, that is correct. I could have used the mirror pick axis or mirror draw axis, and then mirror it again. Mirror from here. We will do more of that. I just wanted to get comfortable creating chain of lines, and but yes, you could do that.
Okay.
All right, save your project. And yeah, I have 10 minutes more. Let's talk about levels. All right, you notice in 2D view that when you start a project from scratch, the template comes with one level by default. This is called level 1. If you select the level, notice that it's actually a working plane that is hosting the house, hosting the sketch lines of the masses, and the level the perpendicular projection of this plane in the view is what you see in the exterior elevation. So this is I'm going to tile this view just to show you that these in the east elevation, I have one level that's called level 1. But in reality, it's a working plane. It's a working plane in the entire 3D space. And the projection of this working plane in the view is what is displayed visible as level 1, right? And so I can increase the size of this plane, and you can just grab these handles in the 3D view. And that's going to change the projection of the level in the elevation. There is the size of the levels on the symbol of a level. It's actually the size of a working plane. And so I'm going to make it a little narrow in all views so that the levels don't display as the symbols of the levels don't display as far as, or they're closer to the geometry. And in turn, you see that the symbol level reads better and it's more aligned to the type of documents that you will see in a construction doc. That makes sense? So you can do it in 3D. You can also do it in 2D. If you do it in 2D, you're going to see at the end of the level a white circle with the word 3D. What that means is this is the extent of the plane, the working plane. And right now there is a correlation between the extent of the 3D plane and the projection in the east elevation. And that's what that 3D means. So this white circle is this white circle here. You drag it out, and then you're gonna see changes in the projection display. Actually, it was this guy.
These are a quick question. When we want to tile views, when we want to split the window and have multiple views, that's TW?
It's WT.
WT.
You're close.
Thank you.
TW make them tile. Remember, tile window. This is tile window. And
Yes.
WT is window tile.
Tile, got it.
Yeah. Okay. Levels. So I'm going to return to TW. This is what a level looks like. And notice that right at the end of a level, there is a checkbox. This enable or disable the visibility of the symbol. If you prefer the symbol to be on the left side, not on the right side, and I'm on the east elevation, just enable the checkbox over there. The checkbox, the enable or disable the level symbol. The level reports datum 00. You can change it by just typing on top of it. 1 feet, raise it up. But notice that everything that is posted into the level goes with it. So this solid masses, when we're creating the loops, those were hosted by the working plane, and that's why the mass moves when I raise the level. But I'm going to keep level 1 at 0 elevation. I'm going to create one more level that is below level 1. And if I look at the elevation, this is going to be the ground level. And it's 10 inches below level 1. And then we're going to create a mezzanine layer level and the roof ridge level. And we're going to all do it in the east elevation. So switch to the east elevation. I'm going to show you how to create a level manually. I'm going to keep the symbol on the right side. I'm not going to keep it on the left side. And to create a level, you go into the architectural tab, level. You're going to see level under the datum panel. And create a level is a 2-point operation. You pick the left, right first, and then you pick the right next to it. So click level, and I'm doing it in elevation. I'm in the east elevation, and then when I hover over like 10 foot above level, you see that dashed line in blue. This is called an extension constraint. And what that means is that the level is going to be locked to the extent of the level below. I'm creating an alignment, an extension constraint. You don't have to be precise on the elevation. As long as you see this blue line, that means that the level is getting an alignment. That's my first click. And then the second click is to stretch it all the way to the end until you see the second end extension. And when you see that blue line popping up, this blue line, that is your second click. And to finish placing grids, just hit escape. And that is your level. You may have to do it more than once the first time you do it, in particular when you click in the points. But that's okay. That's what we're here to learn. I'm going to undo it. If you guys want to undo it, well, because I want to show you a better and easier way of doing levels. This was a 2-point level, but there's another method, which is an offset level. It uses an existing level as a reference and make a new one based on a specified offset distance. So to create a new level via offsets, let's activate the command. Go to the architecture tab, go to the far end where it says level, and instead of creating a 2-segment line, I'm going to use this icon that looks like an arrow on top of a green line. This is the peak line tool.
So what line?
This icon is called the peak line tool. Just click on it. This activate like the offset mode. And now you tell the offset distance in the options bar. This options bar, it's a place where you define custom options. And so I'm going to raise the offset to 10 feet. And then hover over level 1. And you see that preview line, there's this dashed line that appears. This is a visual cue that a level is going to be offset 10 feet from level 1. And click. Now, this was easier because you don't have to click the first line or the second line. It's just like a copy offset of the level. And then hit escape. And you should have your other level there. Now I'm going to change the level name. Just select it, and I'm going to call this mezzanine. There's a mezzanine for the kids, and yes, I want to rename corresponding views. So you can just type on the symbol and change it to mezzanine, or you can select the properties and go to the name and change it to mezzanine. All right, we're going to create 2 more levels and we're going to stop there. The other level is the roof ridge, and that's 6'8" of the mezzanine. No. Actually, the mezzanine height is 9'4". So to change the height, just change the value, 9'4". Now let's create another level via offset. I'm gonna go a little fast. Architecture level, pick line tool, arrow with the green line. Change the offset value to 6'8". Select the level, and when you see that dash line popping up above the mezzanine, that is the roof ridge. So I'm going to call this roof ridge. Yes, we're going to rename the views. And then the last one is the ground level. The ground level is 10 foot below level 1. And we're going to use the same method. Architecture, level, pick line tool, arrow over the green line, with an offset of 10 inches. Now, because these are inches, I really need to put the inch value, or I could just type 0 space 10. That's how Revit understands numerical inputs for feet and inches. And then approach level 1 from the bottom, and you see that that preview dash line below level 1. That's where I want to click. Right now it's called level 5, but I'm going to select it and rename it as ground level. Rename corresponding views, yes. And here you go. These are all the levels in the project. Any question here? Easy. Now, all these levels are visible in 3D. And when you hover over, they have exactly the same size. So all this level has the same 3D extent. And when you start a project, you start having all the levels have the same 3D extent. And that's very useful in the context of a project. And then I'm just going to show you something very quick, and then we stop. Or here. When two levels are very close to each other, that it's unreadable, like this is hard to read, you can create an arm and an elbow. Select the ground level, and you're going to see this break line right at this point of the symbol. It looks like this. Hit that symbol, and you're going to see that an arm and an elbow is created with a start and an end grip. Click on the start grip and drag it out, and drag on the second grip. And this is going to reposition the symbol at a specified offset.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's readable. Now the scale right now, it's 1/8 of an inch. That's probably too large for this type of house. I'm going to change the scale to 1/4 of an inch. That's probably better. And this change in the symbol, it's view specific. So if I switch to the north elevation, you're not going to see our arm and elbow. Unfortunately, we have to do it view by view. Hit the break symbol and go to the ground, and then go to the west elevation and do the same. And that's how level works. All right, let's save this file. Next class, we're going to look into the grids, the structural grids in the floor plan. We're going to replicate this system of grids 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and A, B, C, D. Grids are placed at the face of the wall, a structural wall. And then we're going to talk about walls properties, how to create a new wall from scratch, create different feeling display scenarios for walls. So next Wednesday is a lot of model. Remember, Wednesday is test time, and if you pay attention to the class today, should not be difficult. All right, save it, close it, and see you on Wednesday. If you have questions, feel free to stick around, and I can help you one-on-one. Otherwise, I'll see you Wednesday, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
And the recording is now
Thank you,
available.
Cesar.